Walking into a RoboQuest, it feels like stepping into a cartoon sci-fi blast fest. This indie FPS roguelite drops you into a scorched future Earth as a newly rebooted Guardian robot, armed to the teeth, with the mission of fighting a rogue AI and saving humanity. The premise is simple. Tear through waves of rogue bots with fast parkour and an ever-growing arsenal. What surprised me was how fluid and fun it all feels. Every run is random and high energy. There isn't a deep narrative here. Its story is mostly in the background. You're a last-ditch guardian fighting a rogue AI amid ruins. In practice, the lore mostly drips out via collectible data logs and brief mission reports. This game isn't about a cinematic plot twist, it's about immediate action. If you're looking for heavy storytelling, this might frustrate you. But for its purpose, the light story framing is fine. You feel motivated by a clear goal and encounter occasional snatches of lore, but mostly it's a wasios gameplay first twasser experience. From Jumpstart, RoboQuest, moves. You're constantly sprinting, dashing, double jumping, and wall running to dodge a literal bullet hell of enemies. The auto sprint makes you whiz around constantly to avoid damage, and it all feels brilliant when you master the speed. I found myself zipping from cover to cover with my grappling hook, slamming the ground to stun nearby bots, then jetpacking back up. It's incredibly hard satisfying. Enemies fire back constantly, so staying on the move is key. When you nail a tricky dodge and shoot sequence, it's pure adrenaline. Combat itself is meaty and varied. Starting each run, you grab a couple of random guns and race forward. There are so many guns that I constantly found new favorites. Swapping weapons mid-run kept each playthrough feeling fresh. As if each run is its own mini-genre experiment, co-op adds chaos, but in solo play is where I truly felt the intensity. Every run's last stretch usually ends in a boss lair, a room pulsing with bullet-spewing bots. Fortunately, bosses here are challenging but fair. Beyond guns, RoboQuest layers in a roguelike progression that keeps you grinding. After any run, successful or not, you return to Jerusalem Base Camp Shelf to spend currency on permanent upgrades. There are also 6 classes each with unique abilities. The classes each have their own kits and leveling buffs, so it's worthwhile to try them each out. Summing up, the loop goes, pick a class and random guns, dash and blast through a map with branching paths and mini-bosses, grab upgrades and keys, fight the boss, and then either win or die and start over stronger. Each route through areas is exciting and diverse. The sense of discovering something new, even after 10 plus hours, kept me coming back. RoboQuest's Yorosar presentation matches the energy perfectly. It uses a bright, cartoonish art style, almost like a comic book come to life. On the audio side, the game delivers too. The soundtrack is full of pumping synth rock that made me nod my head mid-fight. RoboQuest nails its core promise. Hours of heart-pounding combat and upgrades that make you feel powerful. It's not trying to be a deep RPG or a story epic. It knows its lane as a joyful, chaotic shooter. I score it a 9 out of 10. If you thrive on high-speed shooters, love co-op mayhem, or just want an endless arcade-like thrill ride, RoboQuest is absolutely worth your time. Just be warned, once you start, you might not want to stop. Imagine a world where magic isn't just flash and dazzle, but the everyday toolkit of special ops units, where your squad of arcane commandos, psychics, witches, necromedics bands together to outsmart private armies, corrupt police, and an entire druidic crime syndicate. And yes, you frequently throw people out of windows. This is a game about breach, clear, repeat, but it's also about laughing at the absurdity of executing a high-octane door kick in a wizard hat. Every mission in this game is a bite-sized puzzle. One turn here, 2 moves there, and suddenly the entire battlefield is your playground. You'll push enemies into each other, charge them through glass, chain lightning across 3 foes, and then rewind time with a click, just to try an even crazier angle. It feels alive. Not because of random chance, every ability works exactly as you expect, but because the game trusts you to experiment. Missed your mark? Rewind. Changed your mind? Rewind again. That simple mechanic ditches the frustration of endless reloads and instead invites you to hone your craft on the fly. This isn't a squad of blank slate soldiers. Each wizard has a personality that leaps from the text boxes. Jen, the Storm Witch and Private Eye, cracks wise about her cat's opinion on conspiracies. Zan, a Navy Seer, sees 1 second into the future, enough to dodge a bullet, but not enough to stop a bad coffee order. Banks, the Necromedic, heals allies by offing them first. Their banter isn't filler, it's the heart of the game. Between each breach, they riff on the stakes, mock each other's catchphrases, and somehow ground the high fantasy antics in real, messy friendships. Despite the zaniness, the world feels lived in. Every mission left me eager for the next conversation. The level layouts are brilliant. You'll face split-second decisions, seal a reinforcement store, or risk waves of armed druids, hack a turret, or fling an enemy into it for explosive style points, chain spells off allies, then watch the screen light up like a fireworks finale. Some maps resolve in under a minute. Others demand 10 minutes of brain-melting creativity. But everyone ends with that jolt of, yes, I nailed it. You might expect the narrative to be a cheeky sideshow. Instead, it's sincere. A global conspiracy tied to rare mana deposits, the return of a missing teammate, and moral choices that feel weighty. The laugh-out-loud jokes never drown out the moments of genuine tension and heartbreak. By the final showdown, you care deeply about your ragtag crew. Their triumphs and stumbles echo long after the credits roll. I give Tactical Breach Wizards a 9 out of 10 and can easily recommend to tactics veterans craving a fresh twist on grid-based combat, story lovers who appreciate humor without sacrificing heart, and casual gamers looking for bite-sized missions, as this game is immersive, innovative, and insanely fun. Doom. The Dark Ages takes us to Argentineur's darker days, centuries before the 2016 reboot. Here, the Doomslayer is a weapon bound to the will of the Makirs, forced to serve in a ceaseless war against Hell's legions. As the Slayer tears through demon hordes to protect arcane artifacts, he awakens to his own burgeoning rage and shatters his chains. The game weaves its narrative through cinematic cutscenes and in-world dramatizations, offering more lore than any prior entry. While the core tale is straightforward, revenge, liberation, ascension, the added characters and godlike factions bring weight to each battlefield. Combat in the Dark Ages pivots from frantic acrobatics to a grounded, melee-intensive ballet of brutality. Your new centerpiece is the Shield Saw, a mech-crafted combination of shield, chainsaw, and boomerang. You can block and parry green Hell Surge attacks to stun foes and reflect damage back at them. Parrying charges your melee bar, empowering 3 distinct weapons: the quick recharging fist, the versatile flail, and the heavy-hitting mace. Beyond melee, you still have a dozen firearms at your disposal. Returning classics like the Super Shotgun sit alongside new additions such as rapid-fire rifles, arcade-casting pistols, and explosive launchers. Ammo flows freely when you land melee hits, encouraging aggressive play. A refined rune system grants active abilities, think area of effect stomps or lightning strikes, that add strategic layers to large encounters. Customizable difficulty sliders let you tweak everything from damage ratios to projectile speed, so beginners and veterans alike can tailor the challenge. This game is a feast for the senses. Jaw-dropping gore, dynamic lighting, and meticulously detailed environments, from blood-drenched castles to glowing infernal altars, immerse you in a dark fantasy world. Performance is rock solid, with frame rates eclipsing triple digits. On the audio front, the soundtrack leans into pummeling heavy metal riffs and thunderous percussion. While Mick Gordon isn't back on the composer's chair, the score still nails that adrenaline-fueled intensity. Sound effects land with bone-shaking impact. With 22 expansive levels, ID Software balances open arenas and more linear corridors. Explorers will be rewarded with upgrade materials, unlockable toys, and lore fragments. To break up the demon onslaught, you'll occasionally pilot an Atlan mech or soar on your Cyber Dragon. The game runs flawlessly, load times are minimal, and I encountered no crashes or major bugs. Hit detection is mostly precise, though a few moments of unfair damage, parries that still register a hit, remind us that no launch is perfect. Doom. The Dark Ages is a bold, blood-soaked reinvention of the Slayer's legend. Its grounded combat and parry-centric dance feel fresh. The medieval hell mashup looks and sounds incredible, and the expanded lore gives fans more to chew on. A few pacing hiccups in open levels and special vehicle/Drake sections hold it back from perfection, but they're minor bumps in an otherwise thunderous highway of violence. For me, it is an 8.5 out of 10, and I recommend it to veteran slayers craving a new twist on the formula, action RPG fans who love deep melee systems and upgrade trees, lore enthusiasts eager to explore the Slayer's origins, and anyone with a taste for high-octane, over-the-top combat.
We Deliver is hiring. Hurry over to their main office on 13 Farrell Street.
I should go there ASAP. Desperately need a job.
This is the island of St. Monique, a half-forgotten place stuck in a post-war hangover, where jobs are vanishing and desperation is currency. You play as Winston Green, a tech prodigy with no money, no home, and apparently no problem crashing through city blocks if it means making rent. At first, it seems like just a delivery gig. Get a job from We Deliver, pick up the cargo, drop it off. Simple, right? But very quickly it's clear, this world doesn't work like ours. You're hauling fireworks that explode the moment they touch your truck, driving across crumbling bridges with fish flopping in the backseat, navigating time skips, corporate conspiracies, and surreal missions that feel like they were designed by someone who just watched Looney Tunes and Dr. Strangelove back to back. And yet, somehow, it all works. Let's get one thing out of the way. Deliver at All Costs is not a polished driving simulator. It is not about precision. It is not about control. It is about chaos. Glorious, unpredictable, hilarious chaos. The driving feels just slippery enough that you're never completely in control, which sounds like a flaw, until you realize it's the whole point. Every delivery is a risk, not because of enemies, but because your cargo might be alive, bouncing, explosive, or floating. Physics are the real star of the show here. I mean it, they're everywhere. Each object in the game, from crates of spoiled melons to malfunctioning helium tanks, has its own weird weight, wobble, and behavior. It's never the same twice. The world is almost entirely destructible. Buildings, fences, lampposts, even bridges. If it's in your way, and you're going fast enough, you can probably go through it. This isn't window dressing, it's gameplay. Sometimes, the shortest route to your destination isn't around a hotel, it's through it. And the game not only lets you, it encourages you. Now don't get the wrong idea. You won't find Grand Theft Auto style violence here. There are no guns, no dead bodies, no fatalities. When the police do show up, which is rare, it feels more like a cartoon chase than a serious threat. They hang off your car, they shout, they make it harder, sure, but never cruel. The playful tone never really goes away. There's something oddly beautiful about this game. The visuals aren't realistic, they're expressive, textures are soft, colors are bold. Everything feels like a Technicolor dream that's one whiskey short of coherent. The camera, during cutscenes, sometimes picks weird angles. It might zoom in on a pen, or a desk, or nothing at all. But even these moments have charm, like the game is winking at you, reminding you it's all a bit absurd. And then there's the music. Regional tracks that shift from mellow samba to punchy jazz to surf rock. Stylized radio ads that break up the repetition. What does break immersion though is the lack of accessibility features, small text, unsubtitled cutscenes, a few awkward typos. It's frustrating, especially when the rest of the game works so hard to feel approachable. But underneath the destruction and the jokes, there's a strange heart beating in this game. It's about a man trying to make something of himself in a world that's kind of forgotten how to care. But underneath the destruction and the jokes, there's a strange heart beating in this game. It's about a man trying to make something of himself in a world that's kind of forgotten how to care. Winston's journey is absurd, sure, but also quietly relatable. We've all taken a bad job to get by. We've all tried to outrun something. We've all wanted to believe that what we're doing means more than just a paycheck. Deliver at all costs never spells it out, but it doesn't need to. It shows you one wrecked city block at a time. This game is an 8.5 out of 10. If you like physics-driven mayhem, weird storytelling, and games that feel handmade rather than factory-made, this is for you. Fuga, Melodies of Steel 3 isn't just another JRPG, it's an experience that grabs your heart and won't let go. From the moment the screen lights up, you're thrown back into war, one that feels both epic and intensely personal. Malt is gone. Your friends, children who've already survived so much, hear a mysterious voice calling them into a forbidden cave. There, they rediscover the Tyrannus, an ancient tank thought lost to the heavens. And suddenly, it's you, clambering inside with them. It's tempting to summarize the plot in broad strokes, but Fuga 3 thrives on the details. Those fleeting expressions on a child's face when they realize what they've lost. The trembling voice asking whether it's worth fighting again. Here's the bare bones. Your group of children, once passengers of fate, become pilots of war. They must storm the Burman Empire's heart, rescue Malt from his own brother, Ash, and confront an army of Crimson Knights. Every step forward unveils another betrayal, another sacrifice, another piece of a world built on shattered promises. And yes, the story barrels forward at breakneck speed. No sooner have you fought through one gut punch of a revelation than the next one lands. It can feel overwhelming, but it also keeps your pulse racing, reminding you that in Fuga, nothing is sacred. Not hope, not family, not even the final boss. Fuga is known for putting brains over brawn. In this third entry, the design ethos reaches its zenith. You sit at the helm of the Tyrannus, 3 turrets, 6 children. Each pair blends weapon type with support skill. Machine gun, grenade launcher, cannon. Choose your pairs wisely. Every enemy has weaknesses, and hitting those weak points not only delays their turn, it builds your combo meter. The longer your chain, the more damage you deal. Miss a weakness, and the bonus evaporates. Every attack feels meaningful. It's narrative in motion, a reflection of the character's bonds and inner turmoil. Between battles, the Tyrannus transforms from war machine into refuge. You wander its corridors in 2D, ticking off tasks with a limited pool of points. If Fuga 2 is about refinement, Fuga 3 is about expansion. Omega terminals evolve your tank into its ultimate form. Power spots offer hidden boosts, and the Akasha panel lets you revisit events, unlock secret chapters, and glimpse what-if scenarios. Then there's Fast Mode, an autoplay visual novel version that zips you through all the story beats in under 10 hours. 8 distinct endings, 19 secret events, a new game plus that carries forward your progress, letting you finally conquer that regret so you can earn the true finale. Fuga 3 practically begs you to return, to discover every hidden shard of its sorrow-soaked world. Imagine hand-drawn art that whispers rather than shouts, a color palette that balances warmth against blood-soaked skies. Character portraits linger, just long enough for you to read every flicker of doubt, every spark of defiance. The game's orchestral score swells with hope, fractures into pain, then gently cradles you in moments of fleeting peace. But no masterpiece is without flaws. The story's pace, while exhilarating, occasionally feels rushed. The leadership skill system, once tied to dialogue choices, now triggers randomly. It's a neat idea, but it can feel like unwelcome noise when you crave control. And when you master the combat loops, the game's tension eases. I rarely saw the Soul Cannon trigger in normal play. The Mega Soul Cannon, a dramatic game-over twist, is even rarer, more spectacle than sustained threat. Still, these are minor quibbles in a game that dares to make you care about tactics, about characters, about the cost of victory. Fuga, Melodies of Steel 3 isn't for everyone. I scored an 8.5 out of 10, and if you crave a JRPG that trades world hopping for intimate stakes, if you want combat that feels like a chess match of empathy, and if you're ready to face a story that refuses to pamper its heroes, then this game is for you. Imagine waking up in a damp, mold-bitten cell with nothing but the cold breath of the earth around you. No memory of how you got there, no name worth remembering, only the faint echo of something ancient humming beneath your skin, something that ties you to legends long forgotten. That's where it begins. The silence is heavy, broken only by the rustle of a rat or the creak of old chains. But when the door opens, you're not given a mission. You're given a question. What now? This world, Avalon, is not a place of bright kingdoms and noble knights. It's a fractured isle, shrouded in mist and drowning in myth. Everything here is broken. The land, the people, even the legends. King Arthur is not a living symbol of hope here. He's a shadow cast over centuries, a memory that went wrong. And in his place is the wordness, a primal, creeping corruption that twists whatever it touches. Plants, animals, thoughts, dreams. It's all touched by that golden fog. You feel it immediately, not through exposition but through discomfort. Trees bent in pain, statues crying blood, villagers who look past you, talking more to their ghosts than to you. The game doesn't scream its lore at you. It lets it sink in, slow and rotting, like the wet soil underfoot. Combat isn't fast, it isn't elegant, but that's what makes it good. Every swing has weight, every spell costs something. Not just mana, but positioning, commitment, exposure. You're not slashing through waves of enemies like a god. You're surviving, scavenging, calculating. Blocking at the right moment feels like relief. There's a beautiful discomfort to the magic here. It doesn't feel safe. It feels like you're borrowing power from something that wants it back. You can cast it fast, recklessly, or charge it deliberately and feel time slow as your hand glows with something that doesn't quite belong to you. And when it lands, when that spell warps the battlefield or saves you from the brink, you feel both power and fear. As if you've let something in. The world whispers while you walk. A rusted bell tolls somewhere in the fog. A beast howls behind trees that don't look quite real. You stop often, not because you have to, but because something in the air feels off. The game never forgets the power of silence, or slowness, or stillness. It lets the atmosphere settle on your skin like dust. Dialogue doesn't waste your time. It doesn't talk in circles. People speak with edge, with desperation, with veiled threats. There's humor, sure. Dry, sometimes bitter. Your character can be sarcastic in a way that feels real, not forced. But more importantly, the choices you make in those conversations matter, not because a bard tells you they do, but because of what happens after. However, it's rough in places. You'll see some stutters, some bland geometry, some faces that look more mannequin than man. It's not a blockbuster. It doesn't try to be. But that doesn't mean it lacks ambition. The heart behind it is massive. You can feel it in every ruin, every whisper, every stretch of fog that dares you to keep going. And it's not just that the game looks good when it does, it's that it feels consistent. The world has rules. The wordness isn't just a story concept, it changes the game. At night, it thickens. Vision narrows. Enemies appear that weren't there before. You learn to plan, to rest, to respect the land as much as fight it. Tainted Grail. The fall of Avalon is not polished, but it is powerful. It's not seamless, but it is sincere. And in a landscape of games that try to please everyone, this one dares to speak softly. And hope you're still listening. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. If you're the kind of player who seeks atmosphere over action, who loves choices that linger, who's tired of fantasy that feels like fairy tale, and wants something older, darker, sadder, and strangely beautiful, then this one was made for you. Despelote is a game that's small in scope, but monumental in feeling. Imagine roaming dusty streets, kicking a worn-out soccer ball, while Ecuador buzzes around you, caught in the frenzy of World Cup qualifiers. You are Julian, 8 years old, curious, restless. Your world is Quito's Central Park and its winding alleys. Around you, neighbors freeze mid-stride, transfixed by shop window TVs displaying vital matches. It isn't a flashy drama. There are no villains or plot twists. Instead, the story unfolds in vignettes, recess at school, flash forwards to teenage years, dreamlike sequences where tower blocks route in a blur of color. This non-linear patchwork feels like skimming through a scrapbook of memories, vivid yet elusive. Visually, Despelote looks like faded Polaroids come to life. The backgrounds are collaged photographs with a duotone haze, sepia tinged one moment, blossoming into green and purple daydreams. Interactive elements, characters, balls, signposts pop in as crisp paper cutouts, reminding you this world is lovingly handcrafted. On the sound front, the ambient design is impeccable. You'll catch snatches of Spanish chatter, birdsong, and the dampened thwack when your shoe meets the ball. It's the kind of detail that pulls you deeper. So much so, you'll start anticipating that satisfying smack before you even kick. At its core, Despelote is about one thing, kicking a ball. Yet it's not a polished sports sim, it's gloriously imperfect. Dribbling slows to a shuffle, sharp turns send the ball veering off course. You control the kick with a thumbstick that also swivels your view. Cumbersome, yes, but it mirrors a child's unsteady coordination. Missed shots aren't flaws, they're narrative. You're not a pro, you're Julianne, figuring it out as you go. Between kicks, you explore a compact map that evolves with each qualifying match. Find hidden conversations, chase stray dogs, trade banter with street vendors. Occasionally, your mother's voice echoes, "Be home by 6:30 sharp?" and suddenly playtime compresses into a deadline, evoking that bittersweet tension of youth, where freedom is always tinged with obligation. Despelote isn't just about soccer, it's about memory. It's a reconstruction of childhood filtered through adult reflection. By the time the credits roll, after about 2 hours, you'll realize Despelote's true achievement, making the mundane feel miraculous. It's rough around the edges, yes, with occasional slowdowns and animation quirks, but those imperfections become part of his charm. The result is unlike any sports game you've played. For Aomiyamae, it is an 8.5 out of 10. I recommend it to players who crave authentic, personal narratives, to anyone nostalgic for the messy poetry of childhood, and to those curious about indie games that push boundaries without bloated budgets. If you want a game that feels like stepping into someone's memory, ball at your feet, history humming all around you, Despelote is a must-play. Imagine waking up in a world that feels both familiar and twisted. A world where vibrant beaches bleed into shadowy factories, where cute toads spill secrets darker than the night. That's exactly where Missing Bamban drops you, unceremoniously, at the edge of an adventure you'll never forget. From the moment you hit start, the world wraps around you like a living organism. The sun-bleached sands of the beach give way to rust-streaked factories. In one room, pastel flowers sway. In the next, gears clank ominously. That tension between playful color and creeping dread, it's electric. The lore is hinted at in scraps, fallen posters, garbled radio logs, the muffled cries of corrupted friends. You sense that something went catastrophically wrong here. You're not just jumping platforms or blasting foes. You're chasing whispers of a world in collapse. Controlling Sheriff Toaster is pure joy. His jump has just enough float to let you savor the air, but not so much that you feel weightless. His dash cuts the wind like a knife. Swap weapons mid-vault and the rhythm shifts. One moment, you're peppering distant turrets. The next, you're gunning down corrupted pals with a satisfying crack. And yes, he's a toad. A plucky, wide-eyed toad with a badge. The contrast between his adorable sprite and the world's brutal hazards creates a tension that crawls under your skin. Checkpoints are generous enough that you explore boldly, yet sparse enough that every missed jump stings. That balance keeps your heart hammering, never bored, rarely broken. Each boss here is a twisted reflection of someone you once knew. That friend who cheered you on now fires torpedoes from his mouth. The kindly teacher silhouette morphs into a hulking monstrosity. When you finally topple them, it's more than a victory. It's a moment of mourning, a silent apology. And the soundtrack during these fights, pulsing drums, discordant horns, it drives you. It's not just background, it's a living component of the fight. Midway through, I paused, not because I died, though I died plenty, but because I felt something. A swell of empathy for a digital creature. Sheriff Toaster's plight felt urgent. When I dove into that final factory, with alarms shrieking, I was invested. I wanted to find my missing friend. I needed to. That's rare. Few games make you care so deeply about the pixels on screen. Sure, it's not flawless. I spotted a bug where an enemy clipped through a wall, twice, and one level could use an extra checkpoint or two. But those moments felt more like quirks than deal breakers. They reminded me I'm playing an indie gem, crafted by people who dared to dream weird. In the end, Missing Bamban is a sprint. You'll wrap it up in a handful of hours, but it's a sprint you'll savor. It's a love letter to old-school side-scrollers, wrapped in a fever dream of horror and heart. It's challenging, but never cruel. It's quirky, but never off-putting. For me, it is an 8.5 out of 10, and if you hunger for tight platforming with emotional stakes, this is your next fix.
American Arcadia.
Picture a city trapped under a giant dome, a pastel-soaked 1970s-inspired utopia, where every citizen's every move is broadcast to the world. That's Arcadia.
I'm Trevor Hills, and I'm the most popular person in Arcadia.
You play as Trevor Hills, an ordinary office clerk whose life, his coffee breaks, his cubicle small talk, even his pet turtle, has been streaming non-stop to faceless viewers, until the day his ratings drop, and the show's producers schedule him for permanent removal. Enter Angela, the rebel technician who hacks into the city's surveillance network to pull Trevor out of the shadows. She guides him through hidden corridors, blind spots in the cameras, the maze behind the perfect facade. We switch between Trevor's side-scrolling escape sequences and Angela's first-person puzzle solving, with each chapter flowing like a dance, sometimes in unison, sometimes alternating steps, but always building toward that next twist. Trevor's world is 2.5D platforming. You'll sprint down neon-lit streets, leap over security drones, and push crates to reach higher ledges. Simple controls, but don't be fooled. The pressure comes from timing. Miss your moment, and it's back to the last checkpoint. Angela's domain is entirely different. She moves freely in first person, hacking terminals, rerouting power, looping camera feeds. Her puzzles invite you to feel like a mastermind, pulling levers behind the scenes to change Trevor's reality. At its best, the game merges both perspectives. You watch Trevor on a CCTV feed, and then, with a single button press, you become Angela, flipping switches to open the path ahead. Those moments, when you're literally holding two worlds in your hands, are pure magic, but it's not perfect. Sometimes the camera controls feel too twitchy, and occasional puzzles feel a bit too cryptic. For me, it is an 8 out of 10, and if you crave, A story that surprises you, gameplay that blends platforming with mind-bending puzzles, and an atmosphere that's equal parts retro charm and dystopian dread, then this game is for you. From the moment the game begins, you're struck by a quiet unease. Sophie wakes in a dusty nursery, her breathing shallow, her hands grazing over soft pastel toys. And then, a flash of something sinister. There, in the corner, is Teddy. And with Teddy, comes sight. But at what cost? Controlling Sophie feels grounding. The left stick moves her carefully, like she's still learning how to walk again. The right stick? That's Teddy's head, shifting in small arcs. Your only window to this world. Place Teddy on one of the pink blankets scattered around the mansion, and suddenly you become an observer. You watch Sophie navigate obstacles, hidden levers, and creeping shadows, all from a fixed second-person viewpoint. That switch, first person to second person, takes your breath away the first time it happens. One moment, you're Sophie's eyes. The next, you're watching her from Teddy's point of view, helpless and hopeful all at once. That sense of limited control, that ever-present fear of what lurks just beyond the camera's edge, it never quite lets go. Puzzles and out of sight strike a delicate balance between brain teasers and suspense builders. You might find yourself sliding a crate to a pressure plate, or maybe you're lining up a distant switch, scrolling Teddy's gaze across dusty corridors until you spot the glint of metal. They're rarely fiendishly complex, but they're carefully designed to keep your adrenaline just high enough. And when your puzzles feel routine, the game throws in a chase. One of Teddy's blankets vanishes, snatched by a guardian, and suddenly the camera flips. You're watching Sophie run toward you, her little legs pumping, while the caretaker's heavy footsteps thunder behind her. In that moment, the puzzle pauses and pure, unfiltered panic takes over. The art style is deceptively sweet, plush armchairs, muted pastel wallpaper, a child's playroom frozen in time. Yet every shadow feels alive, every creak of a floorboard, every distant hum of that lullaby. It's as if the mansion itself is breathing. Sound design steals the show, whispered threats behind closed doors, soft tapping on broken floorboards. The gentle, terrified voice of Sophie calling out to Teddy, her lifeline. It pulls you in, tightens your chest, and won't let you look away. At its heart, Out of Sight is about vulnerability. Sophie is no action hero, she's a child. Every step is a gamble. Every sight through Teddy's eyes is tinged with relief and dread. When she stumbles, you wince. When she hides, you hold your breath. And when she finally reaches a safe spot, you feel it with her. A surge of triumph so pure, it almost hurts. But no game is perfect. Out of Sight's runtime is brief, around 3 hours. Some puzzles in their simplicity can feel like busy work, and you may wish for deeper answers about Sophie's past, Teddy's strange powers, the origins of the caretakers. Out of Sight isn't just a horror game, it's an exercise in empathy, an exploration of fear through the eyes of innocence. It doesn't chase you with monsters, it invites you to share a child's terror, one camera angle at a time. I give Out of Sight an 8 out of 10. I recommend it to fans of atmospheric, story-driven horror, puzzle enthusiasts who relish immersive mechanics, gamers who aren't afraid to see through someone else's eyes, and might never look away the same way again.
My name is Gogandantis, the greatest swordsman of all demons.
Can we get on with this?
20 years ago, Capcom unleashed a dark samurai epic that blended feudal history with supernatural horror. You step into the sandals of Jubei Yagyu, returning home to find his village in ashes. Grief and fury fuse into a single vow: revenge. From that moment, you journey through mist-shrouded forests, abandoned temples, and crimson-stained battlegrounds, all under the looming threat of Nobunaga Oda's Genma army. The atmosphere here is unforgettable. Even in HD, the pre-rendered backdrops shimmer with life. Moss-covered stones, lantern light dancing on ancient wood, blood-spattered corridors, hinting at horrors past. Yet, beneath the surface polish, the game still breathes tension. Every fixed camera angle frames danger perfectly. Combat is a ritual of precision. There's no mindless button mashing. Each encounter demands observation, timing, and mastery of your weapons. Mastery here is exhilarating. Failure, however, tastes of cold steel and regret. Between battles, puzzles offer brief respites. These challenges break the action's rhythm without overstaying their welcome. And if you ever lose your way, transparent maps guide you through corridors you've yet to explore. You're not entirely alone on this path of vengeance. Oh, you, the shield-bearing warrior with a gentle heart. Kotaro, the nimble ninja whose kunai flicker like shadows. Ikkei, the monk whose laughter fills the air even as his staff delivers crushing blows. And Magoichi, the sharpshooter whose rifle cracks with thunder. Gift them flowers or trinkets, and beneath their brief lines of dialogue, you sense genuine bonds forming. When they leap into battle at your side, with Oyu's shield protecting you, or Magoichi's bullets felling demons at range, it's a pure, unfiltered joy. Boss fights here are trials of will. Monstrous figures like Jujudorma and Gogandantes test every skill you've honed. Their health bars stretch endlessly. Their attacks teleport you out of sight before striking. The fixed camera can betray you, sending you blindly in circles. Yet, when you finally land that decisive blow, triumph ripples through you like a shockwave. This remaster brings crisp visuals and faster loading. Weapon swaps now a single tap. Cutscenes that no longer force you to relive every failure. But beyond these modern touches, Capcom chose preservation over reinvention. you'll still experience occasional off-screen strikes, still navigate narrow corridors haunted by respawning demons. Even the voice acting retains its early 2000s charm, melodramatic, sometimes laughable, yet oddly endearing. Playing this today feels less like revisiting a classic and more like rediscovering a lost masterpiece. It's not without flaws. Fixed cameras and constant enemy spawns can frustrate, and the gift system sometimes feels more mechanic than emotional. Yet beneath those relics of the past lies a beating heart of intention. The cinematic strive for depth, the combat rewards dedication, and the narrative, while melodramatic, draws you into a world where history and myth collide in bloody splendor. This game is an 8 out of 10, and I recommend it to action RPG fans who crave deliberate combat, to anyone intrigued by samurai horror, and to those eager to see where Way of the Sword might lead next. Imagine Miami Vice meets RoboCop, drenched in rain, slick streets gleaming under neon. It's gorgeous to look at, and every wet curb and flickering lamppost sells the 80s vibe in a way few games manage. Yet, behind that neon sheen, crime festers. Gangs guard the city like broken skeleton keys, and every shift you jump into feels like stitching up a wound that keeps bleeding. But the precinct isn't about scripted heroics. It drops you as a rookie cop fresh out of the academy, Nick Cordell Jr., son of a legend, bearing the weight of his father's unsolved murder. That backstory fuels your nights, but don't expect cinematic cutscenes. Instead, you get static portrait panels, voiceover lines that occasionally hit like live strands of wire, and a genuine sense of I'm in over my head. It's unconventional, but it works. It reminds you how stark the world feels when you're the good guy with a badge and no superpowers. Here's the core loop. You start your shift at the precinct, you pick a patrol, foot, car, helicopter, and you head out. Maybe you ticket a hot rod blocking a hydrant, maybe you chase down a graffiti artist, maybe you stumble into a full-blown bank robbery. Everything is procedural. No 2 days are ever identical, and because of that, each small victory lands with a satisfying thunk. The game tests you. It's a blast for the first hours, then you start seeing the seams. The grind of citations, ID checks, breathalyzers, while initially grounding, eventually feels like copy-pasted chores. Delegating to your AI partner helps, but never fully cures the repetition. The driving feels floaty, in that delightful arcadey way. You drift around corners, you nudge escapees into guardrails, you watch them somersault in slow motion. Shootouts are a different matter. The cover system is basic. Pop in, pop out, pew pew, reload, duck. Enemy AI can be stubbornly passive or hilariously aggressive, and when both sides trade 1,000 little hits, your health regenerates in cover while theirs sometimes doesn't, making combat uneven. Still, there's an odd comfort in these scripted skirmishes. They break the routine, and they inject cinematic tension, if only for a moment. The precinct truly shines in the little moments, the way neon reflections ripple across wet asphalt, the distant siren crescendo as you accelerate toward trouble, the hollow chime of your radio cutting through the night's hush as you're called back in. It's easy to forget you're playing a procedural sandbox when a single flawless arrest feels like a personal triumph, and then you hit the wall. 24 hours in, and you know every tick on the map. The manual you once devoured becomes a footnote. Those small, dynamic surprises give way to familiarity. The precinct is not perfect, it can feel repetitive. It has its share of quirks and rough edges. But when it's firing on all cylinders, those neon-soaked nights, the swirl of sirens, the pulse-pounding chases, you'll have moments that few big-budget sandboxes deliver. It nails the feel of being a cop in an 80s action movie. Gritty, flawed, and electrifyingly fun, if only temporarily. For me, this game is a 7.5 out of 10. From the moment you cross the bridge into the monolith's shadow, Imperial makes one thing clear. You're small. The wind picks up, the lights flicker, and you get the sense this place has been waiting for you. And what's inside doesn't want company? That opening sequence, a masterclass in audio and visual storytelling, sets the tone for every expedition that follows. Rather than a sprawling open world, Imperial's challenge unfolds through cartograms. Level cards that dictate which of the 4 main quadrants runs you'll explore, the boss you'll face, and the loot you might earn. It's a clever system that gives you agency over your journey, letting you balance risk and reward with every new run. Each quadrant is hand-designed, offering hidden shortcuts, secret cubbies, and thematic hazards. At its core, Imperial demands mastery. The Glaive, an agile polearm for darting strikes and warp slashes. Mace and Shield, a fortress in your hands, built around perfect parries and shield counters. The Cannon, a slow burner that turns each reload into a tense minigame of timing and ammo choice. Every encounter is a dance with danger. Enemies telegraph their moves with glowing bars above their heads, forcing you to weigh your next strike against a life or death parry. But even the very easy settings can kill you in seconds if you lose focus. If combat is the heartbeat, loot is the lifeblood. Every cartogram run showers you with weapons and gear ranging from common steel to legendary artifacts. Each piece arrives with randomized secondary stats until you pour resource orbs into rerolling those attributes to perfection. However, the same grind that can feel exhilarating when you land that perfect drop can also become tiresome when RNGesus refuses to bless your runs. Cartograms are plentiful, but the margin between just enough gear and game over can hinge on one elusive stat roll. Story isn't Imperial's strong suit. You're an elite mercenary, the expedition's last hope, but the characters around you remain distant silhouettes. Their brief quests pepper the campaign with flavor, yet you rarely form lasting bonds. Still, for those who savor environmental storytelling, there's enough mystery to spark your imagination. Just don't expect a tale of Shakespearean depth, but no grand experiment is without its flaws. Animations can chug when the action gets fierce. Hitboxes sometimes feel unforgiving. Occasional texture pop-ins and clipping remind you that this is a lean indie debut. But those rough edges only amplify the triumph of conquering a particularly brutal boss, or finally cracking that perfect build. Imperial isn't the polished blockbuster you see on store shelves. It's the uncompromising passion project you'll rally behind if you hunger for systems-driven depth. It throws you into the deep end, then rewards you only when you learn to swim. It punishes mistakes, but it glimmers with moments of awe, especially when the monolith's secrets align with your efforts. This game is a 7.5 out of 10. If you're after a gentle introduction, you'll find little hand-holding here. But if you welcome a challenge that asks, how far will you go? Then Imperial might just be the game for you. Imagine waking up from cryosleep, expecting to colonize a pristine world, only to discover you've been laid off before you even set foot. You land in a crash, gear scattered, ship broken, and your only companion is a snarky hovering drone. Welcome to Revenge of the Savage Planet. This isn't just another space adventure. It's a satirical romp through late-stage capitalism, served up in neon hues and slapstick physics. One minute you're marveling at fluorescent flora, the next you're pairing a slime-covered mantis with an electric whip. You play as an anonymous explorer, newly redundant thanks to corporate buyouts. The introductory pamphlet lauds your mission. Reality is a hostile planet teeming with creatures that want to eat, or at least maim you. Your guide, Eco the drone, peppers you with quips, some biting, some groan-worthy. Yet beneath the jokes, there's genuine warmth when Eco congratulates you on a tricky backflip, or sighs when you trip over your own feet. It never becomes a depth-heavy drama. Instead, it hooks you with sincere humor and clever world-building. First person gave way to third person here, and it's a game-changer. You feel every satisfying double jump, every rail grind across suspended platforms, and every gravity-defying leap off a springy mushroom. The moment you unlock your magnetic grapple, the world snaps open, literally. Suddenly, cracked walls become pathways, overgrown cliffs become minefields of hidden goo, and every ledge begs you to conquer it. It's an addictive loop. Learn a skill, scan a new vista, then rush back to uncover secrets you once could only dream of reaching. 5 vividly distinct planets await your curiosity. Each biome blends the familiar, jungles, deserts, ice fields, with the absurd, floating obelisks you raise with a tuning fork, geysers that spew elemental goose, and rock formations shaped like cartoon aliens. Scanning flora and fauna isn't mere window dressing. Detailed entries reward you with crafting materials, new color palettes for your suit, and little chuckles at the delightfully daft descriptions. You can almost feel the developer's smirks as you catalog another eyeball-tipped mushroom. Armed with a trusty blaster, your combat starts simply, dodge and spray. But upgrades arrive fast, a charged shot that shatters armored foes, a squirt gun that freezes or ignites, and an electric whip that stuns creatures and doubles as a traversal tool. It's not the deepest combat system, but when you chain a parry into a mid-air slam, fling an enemy into a vat of goo, and then grind away on a neon rail, it feels downright joyful. This is a true Metroidvania at heart. Every new grenade-like plant pod or upgraded jetpack becomes a key to previously barred zones. Orange goo blobs promise health and stamina boosts. Research stations beckon you back to each planet for that final collectible. When you're not scorching alien wildlife, you can spend ITLA coupons on furniture that high-fives you or popcorn machines that spew kernels. Challenge rooms, timed dives, creature capture side quests, they never overstay their welcome. Instead, they add whimsical variety, punctuating the main campaign with moments of lighthearted diversion. Drop in, drop out, couch, or online, two explorers can tackle the cosmos together. It's pure, unpredictable fun. Just be ready to share that candy-colored world at all times. Revenge of the Savage Planet is a goo-soaked love letter to exploration, wrapped in slapstick satire. It never aims to be more than a joyful science fiction romp, and in that goal, it excels. A few pacing hiccups and occasional combat shallowness prevent it from soaring to perfection, but even with those tiny flaws, it's an unforgettable ride. For me, it is a 7.5 out of 10. If you yearn for an adventure that balances genuine laughs with satisfying progression, and don't mind a little corporate mockery on the side, this game was made for you. Imagine stepping into a world sculpted by human hands, then plunge into darkness. That is the Midnight Walk, a first-person adventure where every branch, every monster, even the very earth feels molded from clay and painstakingly brought to life, frame by frame. You are the burned one, a silent figure with no more than a singed cloak and a matchstick in your pocket. Your sole companion is Pawboy, a lantern creature whose flame is both guide and lifeline. From the first creak of a clay-hewn floorboard to the last whisper in the void, this story is less told and more felt. The narrative unfolds in 5 haunting tales of fire and darkness, each a vignette of loss, hope, and unintended beauty. There's no grand exposition, just a world that begs you to fill its silences with meaning. Monsters, born of fractured clay and shadow, slink through fog-choked corridors, eager to feast on Pop Boy's light. Their grotesque forms squelch underfoot, a testament to every imperfect sculpt and scan. Yet, amid the dread, there are moments of unexpected warmth. A ragged house on spindly legs, a stranger in a battered umbrella, tiny sparks of companionship in a world gone cold. At its core, the Midnight Walk is a dance of light and shadow. Your primary tool, Pop Boy's flame, must be tended like a fragile memory. Wield a matchstick like a single-shot flare, igniting distant switches or startling lurking fiends. Combat is almost non-existent. Instead, you hide, you observe, you distract, and sometimes you run. It's a stealth puzzle symphony. One wrong move, and your companion's light snuffed out, plunging you into desperate darkness. The game moves at its own deliberate pace. There are no sudden sprint sections, only the slow thrill of discovery, the hush before a candle flickers, the heartbeat-quickening gasp when something unseen brushes past. In VR, you can even close your eyes to heighten your hearing. Time slows, vision fades, and every creak grows thunderous. It's a meditation on fear, where sound is both threat and salvation. The musical score, sparse piano notes entwined with mournful strings, sways like a lullaby for the lost. It never overwhelms, it simply holds you, reminding you why the smallest glow matters so profoundly. Loading times are short and checkpointing is generous. Dying feels less like punishment and more like a prompt to rethink your strategy. The Midnight Walk is, without question, a beautifully crafted experience. A tactile claymation world brimming with atmosphere and quiet tension. Its flame and shadow puzzles sing, and those heartbeat-quickening stealth moments linger long after you set down the controller. Yet, its deliberate pace and relatively brief 4 to 6 hour runtime hold it back from true greatness. When the final ember fades, you find yourself wishing for just a bit more. Another chapter, deeper exploration, a few expanded encounters with its odd, memorable characters. This game is a 7.5 out of 10, and I recommend to players who savor moody, atmospheric puzzle stealth adventures, VR aficionados looking for a meditative scare, and anyone drawn to handcrafted artistry, even if you crave just a touch more content. Blades of Fire weaves a competent, if occasionally uneven narrative tapestry. The concept of steel as both savior and curse is compelling, and the gradual revelation of the Forger's conflict with arcane thaumaturgus anchors the plot in grand myth. Aaron's terse stoicism contrasts nicely with Adso's inquisitive, often sarcastic commentary. Together, they avoid the heavy-handed, gruff hero's precocious sidekick cliches too many games fall into. That said, pacing can drag. Early fetch quests and mandatory backtracking through labyrinthine levels occasionally dilute the story's emotional peaks. Some key characters deserve more screen time and tonal missteps. Repeated banter lines, echoey cutscene audio, sometimes undercut dramatic moments. At its core, Blades of Fire is a Behausir, Souls-like action RPG with two standout pillars. 1. Weapon crafting. 7 weapon classes, each with multiple blueprints unlocked by defeating specific enemies. A sort of hands-on minigame. You shape heated steel bars to match a blueprint silhouette, then fine-tune handle length, blade curvature, and material. Each choice affects stats, stamina cost, parry window, durability. 2. Combat. Directional attacks, mapped to face buttons overhead, left, right, and low strikes. Chaining blows creates fluid combos, but you cannot cancel mid-swing, which leads to risky, committed engagements. A charged traffic light lock-on system highlights enemy zones, clarifies tactics but occasionally feels too prescriptive. Intuitive weak point hunting is largely replaced by color-coded targeting. Parries, perfect dodges, and boss mechanics. Inject depth, though some bosses hit with one-hit kills and respawn patterns that frustrate more than challenge. Beyond forging and fighting, Blades of Fire rewards exploration with hidden shrines, rare materials, and upgrade stations. Fast travel via Forger's Ambles helps, but overly intricate level layouts and late-game fetch objectives can feel like busy work. Torchlit dungeons, sun-bleached ruins, and blood-red skies immerse you in a world of mythic decay. Environmental storytelling reinforces the steel-turned-stone theme at every turn. Concept art-style cutscenes and Adso's hand-drawn codex entries add personality. The Kaz orchestral score blends brooding strings with ethnic percussion, heightening tension without overstaying its welcome. Voice performances are generally solid, though early game audio glitches detract from key scenes. These hiccups diminish as the story progresses, but they're hard to ignore at first. Blades of Fire is a median 7 out of 10. A solid, often brilliant action RPG whose ambition sometimes outstrips its execution. If you love Souls-likes with a unique twist, deep customization and weapon creation, games that reward exploration and personal attachment to gear, this is one to pick up, but temper your expectations if you're sensitive to punishing difficulty spikes or narrative pacing hiccups. Creature Keeper casts you as Blank, a novice guardian in the idyllic land of Sodland, where humans and creatures once lived in harmony. When a mysterious corruption begins infecting the wildlife, Blank must journey across varied biomes, lush forests, arid deserts, and frozen peaks to uncover the source and restore balance. Along the way, you'll befriend creatures, solve environmental puzzles, and engage in real-time combat that asks you to fight side by side with your monster companions. Creature Keeper weaves a surprisingly emotional narrative. The opening premise, a blight spreading across the land, could feel generic, but strong writing and memorable NPCs inject life into the world. You'll meet a cast of charming characters, each delivering moments of humor and genuine heart. While the main plot occasionally rushes through key beats, the smaller personal stories scattered throughout keep you invested. Combat in Creature Keeper is a dynamic dance of skill and strategy. You equip up to 3 distinct weapons, swords, boomerangs, staves, and switch between them on the fly to exploit enemy weaknesses. Your creatures fight autonomously, but you retain key controls, swap them in or out, trigger their special abilities, and heal both yourself and your companion through an affectionate pet action. Success in battle hinges on mastering weapon combos, timing charge attacks, and coordinating with your creature's elemental strengths. Visually, Creature Keeper embraces vibrant pixel art. Each biome is distinct, with rich color palettes and fluid animations that bring creatures to life. The soundtrack is a true highlight, sweeping melodies underscore exploration, while rhythmic battle themes heighten the tension. But it isn't without flaws. Crashes and softlocks occur sporadically, and placeholder text can still appear in menus. Some UI screens feel clunky to navigate. These rough edges are forgivable in a solo indie effort, but they break immersion and can inflate combat difficulty in unintended ways. It offers a solid 15 to 20 hour main campaign, with side quests and optional creature hunts extending playtime. The linear story and lack of alternate endings limit replay value, but the joy of experimenting with different party compositions and garden layouts may draw you back. Creature Keeper is a heartfelt labor of love, brimming with creative systems and emotional storytelling. Its vibrant world and interconnected gameplay loops deliver genuine moments of joy. However, bugs, uneven AI, and clunky menus hold it back from true greatness. For me, it is a 7.5 out of 10, and I can recommend it to you if you're an indie RPG enthusiast who loves creature collecting and action combat, and you're patient with occasional glitches. But if you're a player seeking a polished experience, you may want to wait for post-launch patches. Today, we delve into a world where silence speaks volumes, and where tiny footprints carry the weight of ancient mysteries. This is Spirit of the North 2, a sequel that dares to expand its predecessor's quiet magic into a sprawling open world. From the moment you awaken on a mist-shrouded shore, you realize something special is brewing. There are no subtitles dancing across the screen, no NPCs chattering in your ear. Instead, you're given a raven's call, the rustle of ancient leaves, and a fog of war map that teases hidden secrets. This choice, to strip away dialogue, places every pebble, every shaft of light, front and center. Each discovery feels personal. Each scrap of parchment found tucked behind a fallen obelisk whispers tales of long-lost civilizations. Yet, silence is a double-edged sword. Without clear guidance, the world can feel lonely, and that loneliness can be beautiful, or it can tip into frustration. Imagine being free to stray off the beaten path, to chase a wisp of light into hidden glades. That's Spirit of the North 2 in a nutshell. The game opens with confined vignettes, small test areas that teach you to jump, glide, and solve minor puzzles. But once you reach that foggy moor, the true skill hits. You're given a vast expanse of land, 6 distinct biomes, and a gentle red haze in the distance that beckons you onward. This is freedom. In its purest form, no arrows pointing the way, no quest markers blinking insistently, just you, a trusty raven sidekick, and a world begging to be understood. But freedom comes at a cost. Overland traversal can begin to feel tedious. After each of the 6 major boss encounters, you're sent back stumbling through empty fields in search of spirit wisps to unlock the next shrine. Hours can pass in these grayscale valleys, and when the puzzles to earn those wisps are rudimentary, often find the lever, pull the switch loops, the sense of discovery can flatten into a chore. Combat, as you might expect, takes a backseat. Instead, the game's climaxes are puzzle-based boss fights. More acts of compassion than clashes of steel. Solving these puzzles feels profound. They echo the core theme, healing an injured world, one gentle nudge at a time. And yet, there's tension. You have only a handful of cowing upgrades, health boosts, extra stamina for gliding, minor rune abilities to topple these titans. The scarcity makes every ability point feel precious. You learn to value each newfound skill, but you also yearn for more depth. Visually, it is a triumph. From bright emerald leaves dancing in the wind, to frost-glazed crypts illuminated by crimson veins. Each frame could hang in a gallery, yet visuals are only half the story. Pav Gecko's orchestral score is the other half, and it's a masterpiece. Sparse strings accompany your solitary steps. Drums thunder during puzzle battles. A lone violin drifts across the moor as dawn breaks. You don't just see this world, you feel it. No game is perfect. And here, a few thorny thickets break the spell. The Fox's jump can be finicky. High-precision leaps sometimes ignore your command, sending you plummeting into toxic pits. Walls occasionally swallow your character. Objects fail to load in time. The camera, on rare occasions, twirls uncontrollably. These hiccups aren't game-breaking, but they're jarring in an experience built on immersion. Despite its stumbles, it remains a heartfelt ode to exploration and empathy. It reminds us that sometimes the quietest steps can echo the loudest. It isn't for every gamer. If you crave non-stop action, tight modern conveniences, relentless guidance, you may grow restless here. But if you're a soul seeker, a lover of atmosphere, an adventurer who treasures silence as much as spectacle, then this world is calling your name. For me, it is a 7 out of 10. Imagine waking up on an alien world. Your ship is broken, the sky is unfamiliar, and a creeping darkness threatens everything you love. This is not just another sandbox game. This is a journey that demands patience, rewards curiosity, and occasionally tests your resolve with tedium. After the crash, you awaken in the aftermath of devastation, your homeworld consumed by a parasitic force known as the Red Darkness. Your mission? Find a way to stop it. You stumble through the wreckage of your ship, guided by a gentle tutorial that hands you your first extractor, a handful of raw resources, and a persistent drone named QB1. It's here, in these first moments, that the game whispers its promise of freedom, and its warning of the grind ahead. Unlike other blocky adventures where a single workbench births your entire toolkit, in Cubic Odyssey, every bench is its own chapter. You'll refine wood into charcoal, forge charcoal into ingots, and use ingots to craft the very bench that will build your next set of gear. Each step feels logical, until it feels obligatory. The hum of the forge, the clink of metal, the soft whir of QB1 scanning the ground beneath your feet, it becomes a cadence, a loop you can't quite escape. And yet, when you lean into it, there's an odd comfort in the repetition. You learn to cherish that comforting ping when a batch of ore transforms into twice as many ingots. There are no hunger bars to fret over here, but batteries. So many batteries. Every tool, every weapon, every scanner relies on stored energy. You'll carry stacks of cells in your inventory, swapping them out mid-harvest or mid-battle. And when you run dry, the world feels heavy. Your pickaxe dulls. Your blaster sputters. You're reminded that in Cubic Odyssey, energy is life, and managing that life over and over becomes part of your survival. Once you repair your speeder, the base you built vanishes behind you. Vast plains stretch to jagged mountains, and the horizon shimmers with possibilities. Planets are not mere backdrops, they breathe. Trees sway in alien winds. Strange bioluminescent flora cling to cavern walls. Roving pirate bands carve dusty trails through your base's periphery. Every sunrise bathes the world in colors you've never seen. Every storm tests the strength of your shelter. You feel small, you feel hopeful. It's in those unguarded seconds, floating above a crystal lake in your jetpack, scanning for hidden ruins with QB1 whispering guidance, that Cubic Odyssey truly shines. No menu interrupts the transition from ground to space. You throttle your ship skyward in the same seamless heartbeat you stepped off your speeder. Below, the planet shrinks. Above, the stars beckon. In those moments, you taste the ambition at the heart of the game, a universe made for you to shape. There is a co-op mode woven into the code, but it feels incomplete. Friends often find themselves tethered to the host's progress, unable to mine, unable to craft, unable to share in the triumphs of repair and discovery. It is a 7.5 out of 10, and I recommend Cubic Odyssey to explorers with patience, to builders who savor each layer of progression, and to dreamers who see potential in every voxel. You may find the early hours slow to open up, but if you appreciate a journey that unfolds at its own deliberate pace, if you yearn to carve out a home among the stars, if you don't mind tending to every battery and bench, then Cubic Odyssey will welcome you. Gintama Prefecture is more than a backdrop. It's a love letter to Japan's street racing heartland. Crafted in Unreal Engine 5, its 250 kilometers of ribbon-thin mountain passes, neon-soaked city streets, and historic villages immerse you in every drifting dream. Cherry blossoms whisper as you carve hairpin turns. Thunderstorms crack overhead as you chase rivals through rain-slicked asphalt. It's beautiful, until texture pop-ins and invisible walls remind you it's still a work in progress. Rather than cutscenes, JDMM unfolds via over 40 silent manga panels. You'll meet fierce rivals and sympathetic locals, but the lack of voice acting and slow panel transitions sometimes stall the narrative's momentum. It's stylish, but it can feel like reading a book mid-race. Here's where JDM really shines. 2 handling modes, Arcade and Simcade, cater to both casuals and wheel-keen purists. In Arcade mode, a tap of the throttle unleashes graceful slides. In Simcade, clutch kicks, faint drifts, and precise counter-steer reward dedicated skill. It isn't a Seto-level sim, but it captures the visceral joy of a perfect slide better than almost any recent racer. The garage is a tuner's playground. Body kits, suspension tweaks, camber adjustments, turbo upgrades, you name it. Beyond the main drift events, you'll tackle drag races, passenger impress missions, and even sushi deliveries, where tips swell if you slide dangerously through traffic. It's a clever nod to Tokyo's street lore, but the world can feel hollow. Sparse NPCs, empty highways, and 2 coming soon zones teasing future content. No photo mode, no replay function. It hints at greater potential, but needs more flesh on its bones. I experienced stutters and occasional freezes. Also, the options menus can be awkward. The soundtrack is a mixed bag. The Eurobeat channel nails that initial D energy, but the default station feels generic, and the engine growls, while roarty sometimes lack punch. It isn't flawless, it's a bit rough around the edges, but it captures the soul of drifting with the passion few games muster. Its physics, its atmosphere, its heart, they shine through the jank. I rate it a 7 out of 10, and if you're a drift enthusiast craving authentic slides and car culture, then this game was made for you. From the moment you step out of your extraction vehicle into the dimly lit corridors of the S2P Corporation's black site, you know you're in for something different. There are no grand cutscenes here, no sweeping orchestral score. Instead, there's a single, crackling voice on your comms, Violet. She guides you through the chaos, her tone alternately reassuring and cryptic, and you listen, because you have nowhere else to go. This is a game built on contrast. 1 minute, you're basking in the harsh glow of emergency lights, your vision sharp, every shot precise. The next, you're plunged into darkness. Your flashlight flickers, the edges of your world blur, your breathing grows ragged, and then the monsters emerge. Your fear meter ticks up, and suddenly you're playing a different game entirely. A heart-pounding horror flick where a single misstep means certain death. At its core, Section 13 is about choice. The weapons you carry, the upgrades you unlock, the risks you take. Each run begins with 2 basic weapons, a handgun for precision and an assault rifle for crowd control. Later, you'll discover alien tech, energy weapons, even modified bows that fire explosive arrows. Yet ammunition is always scarce, forcing you to weigh every shot. And yes, there's a meta progression system, earning star tokens, investing in permanent upgrades that carry over between runs. But it moves at a deliberate pace. You won't unlock everything in an afternoon. Instead, you'll feel your skills sharpen with each failed attempt. You'll learn enemy patterns, the rhythm of dodge rolls, the precise timing of your special ability. And when you finally topple that hulking boss, oh, the rush is unparalleled. But as much as Section 13 excels at tension and atmosphere, it isn't without its rough edges. The underground base you explore is built from a handful of tile sets. Beautifully rendered, yes, but familiar after a dozen runs. And while the roguelite randomness keeps you on your toes, the core areas often feel like variations on the same theme. There's co-op, where you can team up with friends and strangers. But matchmaking can be spotty, and the balance sometimes tips so far that your team becomes overwhelmed unless you've all unlocked significant upgrades. Section 13 doesn't just throw bullets at you, it weaves a story of corporate hubris and personal mystery. Each agent you choose carries their own motivations, their own secrets. Through data logs scattered across the levels, whispered radio transmissions, and a chatty AI that sometimes seems more haunted than helpful, you piece together what went wrong in this subterranean nightmare. For me, this game is a 7 out of 10, and if you love tight, thoughtful gunplay, if co-op shenanigans with friends make you grin from ear to ear, even when you die spectacularly, then Section 13 belongs in your library. Imagine stepping into a painted scroll, every brushstroke alive. That's Yasha, Legends of the Demon Blade, an action-packed, a Japanese-inspired roguelite that invites us to master demonic blades, to restore balance between humans and yokai. When I first loaded Yasha, I was struck by its art style, a vibrant fusion of ukiyo-e aesthetics and modern anime. Every swing of steel arcs with color, every demon spawn feels choreographed as if a painting exploded into motion, and the soundtrack, delicate shamisen strings give way to thunderous drums when combat roars to life. You're handed 3 protagonists, Shigeru, the immortal ninja, Sarah, the exiled Oni emissary, and Taketora, the demon-born samurai. Each run completes 1 chapter of their personal tale, 3 chapters total per hero. Finish all 3, and you'll have lived 9 unique, yet strangely familiar journeys. Their stories are told in fragments, an anthology of legends retold. Shigeru's past may shift when she appears in Sarah's saga. Roles reversed, motives reframe. It's a clever narrative device, a nod to how myths mutate through time. Yet, at times, the dialogue feels flat, lost in translation, and the emotional beats don't always land. Combat is the beating heart. Quick dodge, parry, land a perfect counter, and unleash your mystic arte. Swap between 2 equipped weapons on the fly. Shigeru flicks between katanas, Sarah dual wields daggers in a blur, and Taketora rains arrows that explode into meteor showers. But there's a shadow beneath that spark. Every run unfolds in the same 3 environments, the same boss order, the same map sequence, no branching paths, no guaranteed resource rooms, just a straight march forward. Early on, variety emerges from weapon synergies. There's joy in experimentation, but by hour 10, the joy fades, replaced by a sense of déjà vu. Between runs, you return to a humble village, your hub. Here, a blacksmith spends soul-forged currency to upgrade blades, and a shrine grants blessings to tweak builds. Plus, permanent stat boosts are yours to unlock, dash recharge, crit chance, drop rates. All of it feels meaningful, until you realize your next run still plows through the same gauntlet. Overall, Yasha, Legends of the Demon Blade, is a feast for the senses, a tapestry of color, sound, and motion. Its combat is thrilling, its myth-weaving is inventive, yet its repetition drags on like an overplayed refrain. For me, it is a 6.5 out of 10. If you crave a beautifully crafted action RPG and don't mind replaying the same stages in pursuit of the perfect build, Yasha can be a satisfying diversion. But if you demand branching surprises, diverse arenas, and a narrative that evolves with each death, you may grow restless. Imagine unearthing a pirate legend frozen in time, announced in 2003, nearly lost in 2010, and resurrected in 2025. That's Captain Blood for you, a game that wears its early 2000 roots on its sleeve with pride and peril alike. You step into the boots of Peter Blood, a privateer turned pirate on a quest for riches and revenge against the Spanish crown. The narrative unfolds like a pulpy swashbuckling novel, full of treasure maps, dastardly villains, and seaside taverns echoing with salt sea shanties. Although the storyline hits all the classic beats, kidnapped noble, hidden treasure, naval warfare, it never veers into deep character arcs or moral gray areas. Instead, it stays firmly in the realm of high seas romp, all bright flags and comic book flair. At its core, Captain Blood resurrects that God of War style hack and slash formula, combo strings, finishers, and quick time events galore. Swing your cutlass, fire your pistol, lob a grenade, rinse and repeat through hordes of identical foes. The highlight comes when you liberate enemy weapons mid-battle, from dual pistols to heavy blunderbusses, adding a dash of unpredictability. Ship battles attempt to break the mold, forcing you to man cannons in a static shooting gallery while enemy boarding parties swarm your deck. Yet, these segments often feel like tacked-on minigames rather than a cohesive extension of the core combat loop. Here's where the barnacles clump fast. There's random loss of upgrades in gold, buggy slow motion triggers, and interpolation glitches that make characters jitter at high frame rates. Captain Blood nails the visual vibe of a sunlit Caribbean at dawn, pastel tone islands, flower white sails, and cartoony character models that pop against cobalt waves. The soundtrack channels, Pirates of the Caribbean energy, sea shanty riffs, and brassy fanfares keep spirits high. Even when combat falters, these sensory touches can sweep you back into the captain's cabin, leaning over a weathered map. Captain Blood is a treasure trove for those yearning for early 2000s hack and slash nostalgia, but it's a leaky galleon for anyone seeking modern finesse. Its best moments, weapon theft, ship artillery, pulpy set pieces, glimmer like gold doubloons. Yet, repetitive encounters, technical hiccups, and shallow storytelling weigh anchor on the experience. For me, it is a 6.5 out of 10. I'd recommend Captain Blood to gamers with a soft spot for janky throwback action. Those who fondly recall button masher gems of the PS2 era and can forgive rough edges in exchange for nostalgic charm. If you crave tight mechanics or deep narratives, chart another course. Fair winds and following seas.